and welcome to a live broadcast. We're recording Medicine Caller podcast, and Mara's here with me, and we're just going to kind of get into the show. So, welcome to Medicine Caller podcast. I'm your host. They call me Sophia Wise One. Happy to be with you today. I've just been so deeply tapped into such extremes recently. I think so many of us in our sensitivity are just being pushed to our edges and past our edges and into new landscapes. And so I just invite you right now to invite holy comfort to find you. Holy comfort to me is about the kind of comfort or support that allows us to grow and to heal. Not the kind of comfort like the comfort zone where you just stay the same, not stagnation, but true love, really, true love and comfort. So I invite you to just kind of invite that in, give yourself permission to have that experience of comfort and well-being and settle in, because I have a dear, kind presence. Hi. Technology. I'll try that again in a second. Um, I invite you to get settled because of a really special, gentle, potent, precious being coming onto our show today. And I'm just going to introduce her and kind of let us kind of arrive in our deep listening together. Mara Marchesi. Nope, that's not your name. Ba, 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 ba. Here we go. Ah, there it is. Okay. Mara Marchesi. Yes? No, that's not it
Yeah.
either. Yeah, it is.
No, that's right. That's right.
Mara Marchesi is an intuitive and creative coach. She's a self-purpose coach who helps creative professionals use their intuition to follow their... I'm going to just, Caitlin, scratch that. One more time. Here we go. I get thrown off and then I can't read. And okay. Guest here today. Mara Marchesi is here, and she's a self-purpose coach. She uses her intuition and creativity to help creative professionals use their intuition to follow their purpose. She teaches the importance of reconnecting to yourself, that they are all messages. Everything that we have, your feelings, physical pains, are messages that guide you towards making the right decision in your life and follow your purpose. In her holistic approach to coaching, she uses color therapy, chakras, crystal therapy, and other intuitive practices to guide her clients and help them heal their inner child. She is also the speaker and host of the podcast Intuitive Queens Podcast. So, welcome.
Hello. Hi, Sophia. Thank you for having me here.
My pleasure. I'm really glad you're here. I just want to say, I'm just so, right now, at this exact moment, I'm just deep. I'm just deep in my stuff. I'm just right up to the edge of it. Just feel really tender in my body. I feel like I'm shedding more layers of notions of who I am or what I'm supposed to be doing or how it's supposed to look or why I'm here, if I want to be here. It just feels so, it just is coming in rounds, and it just feels like such a potent place to be. So I just want to say that's where I'm sitting with you today, in this tender
I'm
place.
with you there.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely with you because I've been feeling the exact same way. In the last few days, I've been feeling a little bit disconnected. I think that's the right word to say. And I don't like feeling disconnected. I don't like it because then my creativity flow stops and I start to get frustrated at myself. But I think it's a personal situation because I've been going through a lot of changes. As you do when you have a business, you go through changes that you want or not. The situation around us has made us change big time because we are forced to stay indoors. And I do feel there is a certain cosmic change that is also involved in us, because I had this conversation with my coach and with a couple of other people that like coaches that do my job, and we kind of all feel the same way. Like as you said at the beginning, shedding old skin and kind of like transforming. I do feel there's a big healing taking place, at least for me. So I'm completely with you on here. I've been feeling a headache from yesterday. I'm fine today, but I do think there is a lot going on right now, and we're kind of sipping through all of the emotions and the big changes that we are experiencing personally and exteriorly as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I was noticing myself this morning. I'm so grateful for all the skills, right? Like just the like, I just, I just also say I have two episodes from, I don't know, they're somewhere in the 50s, I think, on this show. That's an episode on grief and an episode on shame. And if you haven't checked those episodes, I invite you to go check those out. Those are full of some like things to do when these kind of overwhelming shutdown feelings come up. And I found myself this morning kind of laying around and just watching myself refuse to use my tools. Just like you're holding your breath, you're not moving your body, your journal is open, but you haven't written a thing. You're just like, I just watched myself just be like, I feel terrible and I'm going to feel terrible, but like, and like holding on to that feeling terrible. And then finally, when I did just kind of like I just kind of watched that, had a compassion moment of just being like, okay, I see that you're not doing any of the things that could make you feel better, Sophia. Like I see that you're just letting that was actually one of the things that really helped me recently was just being like, you're probably just going to wake up feeling bad every day for a while. And like, and what will happen? I just was like, what will happen if I give myself permission to wake up feeling bad instead of waking up
Yeah,
expecting to feel different, and then
yeah,
being disappointed with myself. And so kind of reminded myself of just being like, remember, you're not supposed to feel like different than however you feel right now. And so that started to deepen my breath. And then I started to write. And what happened when I started to write was I really saw how angry I was. I was just so like my text just got like bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, just being like, I am not here for this. I do not want to be here. And that was where I actually began to feel the reconnection to myself in that honesty of just being like, I started to have that sense of like, great, you don't want that. That's life. That's passion. Because I was laying there just being like, where is my will to live? Like, what? I used to be so committed to like working through the thing. And I'm like, do I really want to work through the thing right now? Like, do I even want to work through the thing? And just, I could feel that when I started to get connected to the I don't want to, it helped me also connect to like, I do want. Like I was like, okay, you don't want this, which means somewhere in
you want
there
something
you want
else.
something else. So that was kind of my entrance point today to kind of like beginning to reconnect with myself was actually through my big harumph, like through my big like no, like I'm not into it, I don't like it, I don't want it. I want everything to be different, and letting myself just be like, I want this to be different. I want that to be different. I want that to be different. And being like, oh, there it is. There's some like, there's some desire. There's some connection. There's some will.
Yeah.
So what about you?
Well, it's a funny situation because I'm a very positive person, so I tend to always see the positive in pretty much everything, and I don't really make an effort for it. But I think that what has happened is that I went on to a peak and then I didn't realize what was going on. I went to Australia a few weeks ago because I was nominated for an award, and it was right in the middle of all the craziness here in Europe because I'm Italian but I live in London, and so I managed to fly there and I managed to come back. But as soon as I came back,
Yeah.
well, I went into self-isolation a few days after they locked us down. So I've been staying home alone, happy, in my flow, in my creativity flow. And so when I hit this block of not feeling like I wanted to write, not knowing what to write, what am I going to do? I should be writing about what I want, and I should be doing this, and I should be doing that. And that's when I started to be like, as you said, no, I'm like, okay, maybe I can do this. And I have a tendency of overworking
Mm-hmm.
as opposite to underworking. And so I'm always like, oh, but maybe I can do this. Oh, I just got this amazing idea. I need to. And so what I didn't realize was that staying home, as much as I am happy and I have a garden so I can stay out here,
Mm-hmm.
but how not seeing my friends, not doing the usual things, has hit me in a way that wasn't really easy for me to see. I only realized that when I went into this massive, I don't know what to do, I feel lost, I don't know, da 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 da. And then I hate being in that state because this is what I do. I'm a coach. I am the one that,
Right.
I think that for us, that we do this kind of work, we always want to be at the top because this is what we teach our clients. And so I was like, what am I doing? Oh my God, I should be doing. And so I went into this frustration mode for a couple of days. And then likely with the help of a couple of friends, actually, I was interviewing one of my guests for the podcast and we were talking about manifestation and we're talking about something. I remember when I moved to London over 10 years ago, I had no friends and I had no people that were into self-development at all. I had just started to because my friend told me to read The Secret. And I remember, so I was telling the story of how in order to be surrounded by positive thinking, which was a new thing for me, but at the same time, I didn't have, even at work, I didn't have that kind of people. I was going home and I was watching videos constantly and reading books constantly so that I could get out of my personal mess and stay in that positive flow because I had realized it made me feel better. So I finished the record with her and then I went, oh, okay, so maybe I should be doing this right now. And I was like, okay, let's go and see if I find a good video from Abraham Hicks because she's got it. And there was a video from March where she actually talked about the current situation and how to deal with that. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's looking to me. And I did what I used to do at that time when I had just started into self development. I started writing down the sentences that would make sense for me. I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of need to do something like I used to. And I know all of those things. Like I could repeat what she says,
Right.
but I feel for whatever reason, I feel stuck right now. So, and that simple thing of listening, like with a purpose and intention and writing it down again, just made me feel better. At the end of it, I'm like, okay. And then slowly, it took me a couple of days to really get into a positive mood. And I've been very much introspective. But I'm like, okay, now I can switch that. Okay, fine. I'm not yet at the top where I
Right.
normally am,
Yeah.
but I'm going towards it, and it's finding that moment that resonates with you and realizing. But I think messages are with us all the time, and for me was my podcast guest, and maybe you're scrolling something on social media, it's a song, but I think we need to be aware. So I was like, universe, come on, help me out here.
Help me out here. Totally. That was one of my biggest, big old, one of my favorite words. One of my favorite prayers is help. Just help. Just help, help, help. I really appreciate what we're talking about in terms of a couple different things. One is like that, just the wisdom of like all the time, like whether it's a global crisis, which we're in right now, or just in our own personal cycle, like going back to basics, going back to the thing that worked for you at the beginning, I think can be really, really nourishing. There's like a simplicity, there's a familiarity, there's like a this work, there's a comfort. It's like some of what I talked about before. There's a comfort of just being like, oh, like I did this before. So even if it doesn't feel, even if you're not getting that like 150 boost, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that, just like a little bit of a lift. And I think what's been really interesting for me is that I often I have this image of like embracing myself and like rocking myself right now of just being like I often have comforted myself by thinking about how I had an epiphany in my 20s where I realized that I had had a limiting belief that when you got older, you got sadder. Like I was
Mm,
just like, oh, that's what happens. Like you just get like older and sadder. And then I was like,
mm,
well, I don't actually like, I don't consciously believe that. Like that was some, like, it was like occurred to me that I was like, oh, I like have this thought in me. And I was like, no, that's not what it is. Every year of my life, I will become like happier and healthier. And so and recognizing that like it's a cycle, right? It's a spiral that
mm.
does that. And if you like turn the spiral on an angle and on a chart, it's like a sine curve. Like there's an up and a down, right? That happens.
Oh
But
yeah,
that up and down is on like an increasing angle, right? So
yeah.
it's like the up and down, no. So then the bottom of my the bottom of my up and down, like 3 years later, is actually above the top of my
Mm,
past self. Like my worst day is better than my best day in terms of
yeah.
my like emotional resiliency or the presence. And I feel like this has been for a lot of people
Oh yeah.
that bottom has gone way down and touched back in to it's like the sine curve going up and down, and this has been like boosh, and so it's like actually descending past like some of those low points, some of those bottoming
Mm,
outs that I've done before, tapping back into some of those original awakening feelings. I think is a
oh
lot
yeah.
of what is happening right now, those OG like initial wake up. And so having a moment of just being like recognizing both are happening for me, right? One is that I do have the skills so that even if I'm like stubborn and I'm laying in bed, like, okay, but like, did I literally start journaling and show up? And did I show up to this appointment? Did I do these other things? Like, yeah. And did I do all of those things in like 2 hours or less? Like, yeah. Is that different than I was like 10 years ago? Would it take
Mm,
me, would I have like canceled a thing and done a whole thing and taken 3 days, just being like, okay, so there's a practice, there's a
yeah.
skillfulness, right, of being able to bounce back. And there's also this compassion of just recognizing like if I'm kind of tapped down that low, looking back and recognizing that the things that didn't work for me, that aren't working, like my usual resets aren't working, actually going back to my past self and saying like,
Mm,
when it really was this rough, like what did you do, like what did you have to do to get through your original awakening? I think
yeah.
that's a really powerful insight. That's a really helpful
Yeah.
like a perspective shift of kind of where I was today, which is just like I haven't felt this bad in so long. I hate it. I never wanted to feel this way again. Like I,
Yeah.
and just and it's like
And it's also, I think it's also self-care, like allowing yourself to just rest for like a few hours or something. Like I tend not to because I have so much to do. But yesterday I woke up with this massive headache and I was like, okay, like
right.
you body, you're telling me that the reason why I'm feeling this way is because I need to rest because I've been going on up and down all day trying to figure out how to do this and what's my next big dream and my clients here and there and yesterday I pretty much slept all day.
Yeah.
I canceled an appointment that I had a call for a course that I'm creating with another coach and I was like I I need to rest
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
in that I was like, and this is when my mind stops overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed this day because the only thing that I could do was either sleep or just stay in silence. And my body does that. I think everybody's body does that. And I know I'm very much aware because I talk to my clients about how your body talks to you all the time, how your pain tells you things. So I'm very much aware when I feel pain somewhere and, headache, it's always, your mind. And I know I've been overthinking. I'm like, okay, got you. I'm just not going to think today and stay and just be. And, I think we need to allow ourselves to also feel how we feel and just be for a day without having to figure out and analyze why we feel like that. How do we get out of this? And la, 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 la.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wisdom. Yeah. That space, that real
Yeah.
space to just let it be.
Yeah.
What do you what do you, I just kind of want to ask, like, what are you seeing, right? Like from here, what do you, like, you like took this day of rest yesterday and now you're, it's like this gentle, not to, it's like, I don't want to go poking and prodding and being like, give me your biggest dreams. Like, that's not what I mean at all. But I'm just curious, like, what's, like, even in this moment, like, as we sit here, like, um, can you just like look through that? Like, what do you see? What do you have to
You mean
see?
from my personal situation, or you mean generally?
I think either. Like whatever's kind of like, yeah, like for
I
you.
feel each and every one of us, and globally, the whole world is going through a massive shift. I can talk to you about me personally. I know I've been feeling in between for about a month, and a friend of mine came home before. So I went to Australia mid March, and I was already feeling like I started off the beginning of the year with like bam, bam, okay, and then into almost the third month, I was like, okay, there is some old me and some old beliefs that needs to like let I need to let go of. But I feel in that in between land where I am no longer the old me, but I'm still not the new me, and I'm not sure what I am. And my friend actually came over and she practiced something I can't remember what it's called. And she said to me, the way I see you right now, it's like she had burned her hand with candles. So she had for a while in December, like burnt skin on her hand. And she's like, do you remember my skin that was kind of coming off? But there was a moment in which I couldn't take it off because the new skin was too sensible. So the old skin, although that was protecting and I couldn't. And she said to me, this is the way I had this image of you, like, yes, you're going through this transformation, but it's yet not the time for you to rip off the old skin because you need it to protect you. And I do feel the shift happening, and I feel this situation we're in globally is exactly what's happening to all of us. We're being forced to be face to face with our fears, with our limiting beliefs, with the people that makes us happy, for who lives with other people, and with the people that makes us mad. We had been maybe people, money issues because some people have lost their job. So all the safety fears have come up, and I feel it's like a way from the universe to say, okay, deal with all the basic fears because what's coming next, it's like I'm preparing you to deal with all the fears that are rooted in you and are not actually yours. So then you can, like, once we get out of here next year, whoever has been able to awaken himself or herself, then we will really make a step forward as a collective. I do feel there is a shift in the collective. There are so many people now, stepping up and wanting to do more things for the environment, for the community. Even how the social media, they were so talked about how everybody was so disconnected because of the social media. Now they have become the thing that made us connected. So the nature, like you're seeing like dolphins where they weren't anymore, like animals are, starting to take back their places. And I think everybody is realizing what we have done to the planet and what we have done to ourselves as a person and as a community. And I think we're never going to be the same. Like there is a shift in consciousness, and who is up for it is gonna go in for a big ride from next year. This is how I feel. And even, all the big companies and the entrepreneur getting together to try to find a solution to a global problem is no longer, I am American, I am Italian, so we found this for, no, it's like we work together to find. So I think this is one thing that will happen again. So now they have realized that we can actually work together to to help resolve another big problem that we created. And so now it's no longer going to be like, oh yeah, let's free the sea from plastic. No, let's do it globally. Let's help the environment globally. And I am pretty sure that, yeah, some people are not going to like how this is going to go, because I feel this year is going to be like very like, be careful. Let's all be careful, and let's all take care of ourselves, so then we don't spread things around. But when we come out of this, I feel people will want to take care of the planet and will want to help each other. I feel there is this kind of shift in globally, and of course it starts from each and everybody of us. So everybody is living it in their own way. I know I have big changes personally, as all limiting beliefs and things like that. I have things happening in my business that I've been wanting to have, and some others that I haven't, but they arrive. So, the more you expand, the more your fears expand. So you have to deal with that. But each and every one of us has a different situation. So whatever is happening, you deal with your personal situation. How you deal with that will propel you to be either very much into the openness and awareness next year, or you will stay where you are and you're probably going to miss the train.
I have to say, there's like I really feel this like, there's a lot of beauty in what you just described. And just having my own like recalibration, it's not actually all that different. Like your timeline of like next year, it's like next year is going to be really different, And I'm having my own response of being like, next year I'm having a lot part of the thing that's really my like limiting belief, or like my edge that I'm coming up against, is a lot of this I'm really seeing my impatience, which isn't new. That's not a new theme. I can see how I've made a lot of choices in my life leading up to this point in my life from that impatience, right? Like my gift is my like creative spontaneity and the like impulsive, impatient, it's like how many times did my like dad or
Yeah.
parents try to lovingly be like, okay, but like, you do have a little bit of a, do you want to maybe sit with this a minute, and me being like, I sat with this for 3 days. Do you have any idea how long that is? Like, oh my God, like it's all that's been happening for 72 hours straight, and they're like, maybe focus on something else for a day, maybe, and like come back to it. And I'm like, now I have to do something now. And so I'm like really seeing that way of being that is, creates suffering, I think, like that really, that creates pain in my being. And the way that there's also this other half of it, which is like the impatience that creates a story and expectation that then fights accepting reality, right?
Yeah.
And that's the part that hurts. And then there's this other part where it's like the 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 limiting belief that got partnered with that, which was that like I'm spontaneous and I'm impulsive, which means I have to control myself, sit with that. So then I'm having all of this surging energy and having all these limiting beliefs that are like, you just can't follow that surge. You've got to like sit with that. You've got to like make it good. And so it's like I feel like I'm sitting with these two, the intersection of the dysfunction of the conditioning, where it's like I need to like the wires are crossed, right? So I'm like
Yeah.
sitting in this place of like, okay, how do I create a life in which I'm patient and allow my creative expressions to come through when they come through? And that is so clearly, I feel so clearly that is a deep, 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 like spiritual consciousness paradigm shift in my being, right? It's about being like, those are not hard to do when I am deeply connected to myself and when I trust
Yeah.
myself, because I accept
Yeah.
reality and I follow the impulses with gratitude, which is the
Yeah.
opposite of like, I want it different now and stop, don't do that. You're not allowed to do that. It's,
Yeah, well, we all get impatient. Like we have expectations, we have goals, we have things we want to achieve. So, impatience, I think it's normal, but it's realizing that you disconnected yourself. Like, for me, it's not supposed to happen. Like my voice says, you're not supposed to disconnect from your intuition because you're the intuition queen. But I do, because I tend to work a lot, and when you are in flow, you don't realize what's happening. When you stop the flow because maybe you're tired or maybe something happened, you just feel how you feel, which is normal because we are in phases, and we can never be always the same. But as much as we know all of this, we forget. And then we need to remind ourselves that someone else has to do it. And, and then it's the reconnection. I kept having this message, like even, doing cards for me, or a friend doing it for me, or I was like, okay, I got it. All right, let's meditate a little bit more. Today, I'm just going to do a very long meditation, or I'm just not going to do anything. I have a room upstairs that I still had to dismantle the bed because I decided to rent that one instead of having a flatmate, so then I can make it my studio. And I was supposed to look for someone else because it's a 3-bedroom flat, but due to the situation, I couldn't. So I was like, okay, I'm enjoying being alone, and la la la. And then someone contacted me, and actually, because my landlady is obviously being like, well, I was like, yeah. So I found this really nice girl, and then I started to go into, oh my God, no, my peace and my happiness of being alone. I'm like, wait, yeah, it's not the right time for me to actually get the whole. So I was like, okay, so what can I do to make me feel better? Dismantle the bed upstairs and start preparing your office, because this person is going to arrive in May, and you have to be prepared because you can no longer work from the living room. And, stop thinking about anything else and start doing something, which is what I say to my clients all the time. Do something with your hands, cook, garden. Do you just use your hands, write, buy a coloring book, do something with your hands, and stop thinking about whatever it is that is bothering you or whatever question you have. And I wasn't doing that. And then I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to clean and make it nice, and prepare for my creative space to be ready. I can't buy furniture yet, but it doesn't matter. I have a space that it's mine. And that process really helped me. But, you have to go through your own moments to understand what is going on, and the impatience of being like, oh, I wish I could be by myself all the time. And then I was like, yeah, but not yet. So there is no point in you going on and on and on and try to be impatient, trying to create something. No, it's not the way it works. But we are all impatient, I think, and it just recognizing that, stopping for a moment, yeah, and reconnecting.
I think spring, like in the northern hemisphere, it's actually it's similar energy in the fall. It's just the inverse, right? But there's like a lot of elements of it that's like there's like a momentum, like it's a momentum
Yeah,
shift. And
yeah,
I know in the northern hemisphere, like that spring energy can really activate a kind of, sometimes I refer to it as a holy impatience and a holy patience. And the holy impatience is this like, it's just like that determination that's just like no, it's like that clarity that's just like no and yes, and like that's what's happening and I want it now. And it's that vibrational commitment to this like other place that's just like this like no, I'm actually not, I'm not accepting, I'm not participating, I'm not like no, like no. And that is a kind of acceptance, right? There's a kind of embrace and becoming the landscape that alchemizes, right? But that's
yeah,
matched with a holy patience, which lets go of a timeline
yeah.
or a particular
Outcome.
outcome or structure
Yeah,
to that
yeah,
holy impatient, that holy knowing of that
yeah,
shift, matched with this patience of like how it unfolds.
yeah, yeah. You're right.
The other thing I heard while you were talking, I was thinking about this that really resonated with my practice this morning was the idea that I go kind of back to over and over, that it's like I say to my clients all the time and saying to myself this morning, of just being like, you have to ask, like sometimes you have to stop asking long enough to hear an answer. You know, it's like
Yeah.
that, like asking, 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 and there's no space. There's no space. There's like no space to hear the answer. And
Yes.
so really, again, for me, like being willing to drop into my like menstruating, shedding, bleeding, non-lineal space, right? To like be willing to just drop in and be in that like holy receiving and that tenderizing um, space.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Hmm. What's something else that's on theme right now that you're like that was so good that that doing something with your hands piece of I just know that's often like when I'm working with my clients or students or I'll just talking to my friends or things like that, it'll be like there's a theme, that like everybody's kind of presenting or showing up right now, and I guess there's like a big one collectively, and maybe we've already talked about them, but I'm wondering if there's another one that you're
Yeah, I
seeing.
think it's doing more things. Like I see a lot of people, even just friends, like cooking away, whatever, like sending me pictures of everything. Like, oh my God, I've seen this. I'm like, I think, for who is able to use this moment to use the time, extra time that we have, because, even if, like, I'm thinking about families and people that have kids, and maybe the time there is a little bit more limited because you have to homeschool them, and then you have to do your job, and then you have to clean the house, and then you have to do whatever else,
Yeah.
because you can't have a cleaner anymore, you can't have a nanny anymore, and so. But for all the other people that are having more time in their hands, it's really about trying to find something to do. And I am
Mm.
seeing a lot of people cooking more and just really doing that kind of things that you always say you were going to do, and not doing it, like cleaning, removing stuff that you no longer. I did that, like I had, because my previous flatmates left in March, so I came back and I was like, okay, now let's remove a lot of things that I didn't no longer need, and and that kind of things. Oh, maybe I'll fix this. Maybe I'll do this. I think people are concentrating on doing those physical activities in their
Yeah.
homes, and also the ones that are willing to maybe just sit and read a book or take a course. There are so many free resources now online. Everybody's online doing videos, and I think, like, if you don't have anything else to do, I will just jump on it. I can't because I have things to do, but I am like picking things like webinars or things of things I'm interested in, because I'm like, when is it gonna happen again? That so many people are doing free stuff, half price, or simply, if you have been wanting to take a course for a long time, now it's the time to really use this time in the best way. It doesn't mean like you have to do a lot of things every day. No, you can have a day where you just decide to stay on the sofa doing nothing. But I think that this is an opportunity to get closer to people, to learn more about the people you live with, to manage yourself differently, and to do that things that you say you will do when you have time. Now you can cook whatever you want, or you can clean your garden, or your home, or start writing Christmas cards, all those kind of things. And whenever, or make a list of things that you wish you would like to do whenever this is done. I think we need to use this time in a way that makes sense for us as well, and not be like, oh, this is terrible, I hate this moment, and I can't wait to get out. Because the reality is, we don't know when this is really going to end to a point where you will feel safe to get out and shake someone's hand and hug someone and be like, hey, so nice to see you. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. So right now, this is what we are. And it's been an adjusting time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it's, I think, yeah, use your hands, play games, have fun, however possible for you. Which I know it's difficult because when you get together too much with some people, you might not want to see them for so much. But you have to learn. I think it's a way for us to learn more about ourselves and the people that we live with, and really it's facing. How many times we say, "I if I had the time, I would do this," and now you do.
Right.
So it's really seeing how committed you are to the things that you say you wanted to do.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that you said just made me think of was that notion of like this navigation of intimacy and personal space. It's like everyone's doing a study in what is connection and what is personal space. And I think a, a lot of like westernized, I don't know. I don't know kind of where, how far that in different, this is a lot. So I don't know. There's a bunch of cultures where this probably wouldn't apply, but there's a bunch of spaces where I think this does apply, which is that in the reason, like the modernized westernized world, this way in which it's like the way that you get your personal space is by like the like, I know my housemate goes out on Thursday nights, so then that's my like we like kind of steal our time from ourselves, or like,
Mm,
it's like you make these arrangements or plans, and then it's like, and then you have it, and so it's like being proactive about saying this is what I want and this is what I need. Like I need more connection, I need more space is pretty like high level intimacy, a lot of relationship stuff, right?
yeah,
It's like this is how we do it. And one of the things is like we also need to do that with ourselves, right? Like navigating that with my own self of like, okay, you're gonna work, but you're gonna stop working at 7 tonight, actually. So feel like you're gonna
oh
stop,
yeah,
right? Like we need to like, well, you need to like move your body, you need to get connected, you need to call a friend, you need to like watch something funny, and
yeah,
how that's the same thing. That's like my ability to do that like with myself, and then my ability to do that with another person, friends or family, or in partnerships or business ships, right? Like those like spaces of being like, I need more connection, I
yeah,
need more communication, and then being like, I need less stimulus, I need less engagement,
yeah,
I need more play, right? I need more structure, I need more play. Like we're getting clear about those things. And that when we're learning new things, very rarely is it graceful.
mm,
And so it can be a really humbling and sometimes humiliating process because we have an idealization of what that looks like. I know that I've done that, like definitely I have can often kind of really have very high standards of relating. And then when I don't step up to them or when someone else doesn't step up to them, sometimes I can be really, probably it depends on how much oxytocin I have in my brain. I can be really like we're learning. It's so good, isn't it so good? And then there are other times where I'm like, I have really high standards and you are not showing up. Or I'm like, I'm a fuck up, I'm a fuck up, I'm a fuck up, I'm a fuck up. It's just being like, okay, but like literally learning something new. So like you didn't know how to do it yesterday. So those expectations of expecting to be able to be a master at it today when we're learning something new. So for those of you that are navigating and practicing asking for what you want from yourself or from other people, or kind of getting honest about being like, wow, I used this reason for a long time that doesn't hold up anymore.
mm,
That reckoning, that like reckoning of self is, I feel like that's just like, I don't know,
yeah,
make faces about that. That's like definitely what I've been in and through is this like a lot of self reckoning. Like,
mm.
I'm literally sleeping in the bed I made. Like this is a global crisis that has exposed the reality of my life that was already happening. Like this is
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
I think, we can only take it in the easiest way possible because otherwise it's going to be very complicated. And, you have to go through your feelings and the feelings of the people that you have around. And at the same time, be also like, I need to just be alone for a little while. So for the next 2 hours, don't come to my room because I need silence, I need space, or I need to listen to my music or whatever. I just don't, I need to be out.
Yeah.
And that's like where there is honesty, self-respect, and boundaries, where they need to come up because otherwise you're just going to be onto each other, and then it becomes complicated because you just, you're already feeling trapped in a way because you can't do what you want. You cannot buy food as you used to, and you cannot go out so much. So you kind of also have to be gentle and a bit more honest with yourself in what you need and what you don't, and learn not to take things personally if someone says, I need my space, don't talk to me for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
It just is nothing to do with you, or it just, we all need our personal boundaries and space, especially in a situation like we are now.
Yeah. It's just really resonating with me. I'm just having such this like, how am I doing that with myself right now? Honesty, self-respect, and boundaries. Those feel like really just like with no one else in the room, right? Like how honest and respectful, right? I think that's like one of those places. I think for me, that's one of those things that depression, situational, or, for people who really, it's an old time friend, right? Like self respect can be hard to maintain, and sometimes the honesty isn't honest. We think we're being honest, but we're just being harsh and cruel. And that's not honest, actually. The honest thing is like we're in a larger context. Actually, that's what's honest, and like, and then this piece is honest, and this segment is honest. Like to kind of keep that, and then to be self-respectful of what's happening and the circumstance, honest about the circumstance that you're in. And then boundaries, right? Or limitations, knowing like what can I do, what I'm available for, what I'm not. And then being able, again, that loops back into, right? And then it loops back into self-respect. Now that I'm clear about that, how do I show up to myself in a way that respects that? If I'm really talking about relating to myself, right? It's like honesty, self-respect, and boundaries or limitations for the person across from me. The communication is an exchange, right? Like between
Yeah.
across those things. And so when I'm having that process with myself, how well of a partner am I being to my own self? How much am I respecting that honesty? How much am I showing up with respect, and how much am I respecting the boundaries or limitations that my body, right, in my intuition that says like I have a headache, it's like I have to get this done, or it's
Yeah.
like those notions. And I always come back to that because I think if we really want to do those, if we notice that we're not doing them the way that we want to do them with other people, the first place to look is how are we doing it with ourselves. And I know
Absolutely.
for me, one of the things that happens when I can't listen, when I can't follow someone else's talking, like when I can't follow what they're saying, it's because I can't hear myself. And so needing to know that I need to like either call a friend who will literally just let me talk for 2 hours straight because I'm a verbal processor, right? Of just being like, I need to listen to myself. Or I do things, this might be useful for people actually. I do videos or audio recordings of myself and then listen back to them
Oh.
to be able to like really find out what is happening and to have the experience of really being heard, of just being like, is that like, is this really
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah, it's like journaling.
Totally.
Once you let it out, then you actually look at it or you listen to it. Like, do I really think
Do
this?
I really think that?
Maybe I'm overreacting
Yeah,
here.
totally. Or
Yeah,
like, oh, it's
it's
like a little
just really
harsh.
seeing it.
Really? You think that's like, whoa. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, it can be really
yeah,
helpful. Audio
yeah,
journaling.
absolutely.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
videoing. Sometimes I do that, like, and that feeling of wanting to be seen. That can be really useful too, to like talk it out and watch a video, like just talk about it, be like, this is what's happening for me. And then watch it back and be like, I see that this is what's happening for you. Like I see, like I see those big tears coming down your face, like I see that you're really mad. You are mad. You are mad. It's really,
Yeah.
it's become a sweet thing for me to, again, a tool if I'm willing, if I'm like brave enough to hear myself and to love myself, to take the time and the energy, which of course is always the most efficient use of my time and energy, is to like show up and hear myself. The excuse of like, I don't
Yeah.
have time for that has like never paid out in my experience at all. It's like
Yeah.
3 weeks later, my life was like a dramatic shit show because I didn't spend 15 minutes saying the thing I needed to say. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I sometimes you just have to let it out without having to really speak to anybody. You just have to understand what is going on.
yeah.
Yeah. And how deep is the anger or frustration or whatever emotion that you're feeling in that moment.
Well, I have two closing questions. We could migrate that way. Unless there's
Okay.
anything else that you want to. Elisa Starkweather says, burning share. Do you have a burning share? Something that's like there that you want to. No? It's good. Just.
Not really. Not at the moment.
Okay, we'll see.
Nothing comes up.
Perfect. Where and how do you like to connect with people?
I'm most active on Instagram, but I'm also on Facebook. You find me as the Intuition Queen, and through my podcast, which is on the major podcast application, iTunes, Spotify, and on my YouTube channel because I also do video. So yeah, that comes up every Wednesday. And yeah, you can see me there and on my website, theintuitionqueen.com.
Beautiful. Awesome. So my final question is, we're birthing this new paradigm in reality, right? That's like what we're up to, right? And so my invitation for you is to go through that tunnel of time. We already touched in on some of this, but to kind of go through the vortex, the cervix that we're passing through. And I'm just going to keep going. The vaginal canal, the birth waters. It's just intense. It's an intense time, right? It's an intense labor. On the other side, right? Like recovered, landed, integrated, take a little bit of a walk out. We're there. We've recovered. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? What is that? Where are we going?
Wow, that's such a deep question. I see this as a very positive, big shift, and it's gonna take. What I see is that it's gonna take us a while to adjust. But as they say, it's not about reaching the goal; it's who you become in the process that matter. It's not, wanting to make $10,000 a month or whatever. It's who you become to reach that goal that you set up for yourself. And so I feel it works for us in the exact same way. The only difference here is that we haven't chosen this. And we don't know, we don't have an end date, and there is not much we can do to speed up the process. It's not about us. But I do feel that once we come out of here, we're going to be so different. And the ones of us that have realized things in the process are going to step up even more to make this place, this earth and this planet a better place in terms of actions towards the planet, but also in terms of how we communicate and we connect. I do believe this is going to be the shift that a lot of people are talking about. Like, we're entering a new decade. It's going to be the decade that is going to change. I mean, this year is year zero, year one, and hello. So I do feel this is how we're going to get to. And I also feel that because there are so many people coming together and raising awareness and raising consciousness, the ones that stay behind because maybe they're not ready or they are unable to hear will be dragged by those ones when those ones are going to start to step up a level more and a level more. And I think it's going to be a complete different world. And I tell you also, people are already saying this. Like, there was an article today in the newspapers where they have done a survey here in UK asking, I think they asked about 5,000 people if they want to go back as we were or not. And 60% of the people said they don't want to go back as they were because look at what nature is doing. Look at how clean the air is. Look at how better our planet is, which is what we were trying to reach before this. So I think the consciousness has already awakened. We just need to go through the process of really being attuned to what we are going to be next year, whenever we will be free to just be ourselves again and enjoy what we have. And I think also this is really making us appreciative of freedom, of our planet, our environment, the people we are surrounded by. So I think we're gonna come out of here more aware, more grateful than what we were before.
Great. Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Sophia.
You're so welcome. I just want to let my listeners know that I have found a way to publish the game, the Oracle deck, the manual, in print again. So I found new printers and a new process, and so please reach out to me, go to the website. You can order your game, fun and intuition development, and skills. Talk about those skills. I've had a lot of people say that they pull a card or do a practice almost every day from the I Love My Life card game Oracle deck and Academy, and that it's been really supportive for them. So if you don't have your copy yet, please go and pick it up. SophiaWiseOne.com. Be happy to be with you in your home. It's like, it's almost like we're touching if you have the deck of cards there with me. So just let you know that that's up and out there now. And just like I said, wrapping us up. Mara, thank you so much for your presence, your
Thank
positivity,
you.
your kindness, your insight, and just invite in those waves of comfort. Like, may we be wrapped in a blanket of love and acceptance and appreciation for the breath, for the moment, for the process. Knowing that we have had that moment, that I don't want to go back moment, means that we have change. We have change ahead, that we've chosen that.
Yeah.
So may we find courage and comfort and peace in that courageous choice. All right.
Yes.
Love to all, peace to all.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Be well, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.